Hello, I'm Paula Danielli, the crochet designer and creator of CrochetHook.com. Recently I've partnered with a cause called Crochet for Cancer, and I'll be designing a series of chemo caps for volunteers to make and donate. This chemo cap you see here is my first design, which we've named it Wings Like Eagles. I'll be showing you how to make this chemo cap in this tutorial, and to find out more information about Crochet for Cancer, where to donate items and how to form a chapter in your own area, you can click through to the website through the link below in the description box. You'll also find a link there for the written pattern, which is at CrochetHook.com. This chemo cap is a lady's adult size and is a beginner pattern. The head circumference is 19 inches or 48 centimeters, but take note that with all caps or beanies they stretch another 1 to 1.5 inches or 3 to 4 centimeters once placed on the head. You can make this cap on its own with or without the wings, and I'll just take the wings off so that you can see what it looks like on its own. So this is what it looks like on its own. This is the front with just a small brim there, and that's what it looks like at the back. So it's up to you whether you want to make the cap on its own or with the wings and the buttons. Now, when making a chemo cap, I've used the smallest stitch, which is the single crochet stitch, and the reason being, when making a chemo cap you want to crochet in the smaller stitches, as most chemo patients who've lost their hair prefer caps with no holes or gaps. The materials required for this chemo cap is 1 ball of Red Heart with Love medium category 4 yarn, and I'm using a colour called Bubblegum. And I'll take this label off so that you can have a good look at what you need. The colour is Bubblegum. Now, I tested with a 6 and a 6.5mm hook, but it left too many gaps between stitches, so I'm using a 5.5mm hook or an eye. Now, if you're going to have wings on your cap, you'll need 2 buttons. Any buttons are fine. And you'll need your craft scissors, a large yarn needle with a large eye, and a stitch marker. If you don't have a stitch marker, you can use a safety pin. This pattern is worked in continuous rounds, which means that there's no joining at the end of each round. So we'll basically be working around and around in a spiral motion. We'll be starting at the crown of the chemo cap, which is the top of the cap, and then we'll be working around and around and working downwards this way. To get started, we're going to make a slip knot. So wrapping the yarn around your finger, and take that off, and then push the working end of the yarn up through that loop, and then pull the yarn tail, and there we have our slip knot. Using our 5.5mm hook, insert it in there and just pull. And now we're going to make 4 chain stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to join into the first chain stitch here to form a ring. Just flip your tail end over there, get the working end, wrap it over your hook, and we'll make a slip stitch through those 2 loops. And there we have our ring. Now from here on out we'll be using our stitch marker to place into the first stitch of each round. So now that we've got our ring, we're going to be working over this tail end and making 8 single crochet stitches into the center of this ring. So we'll make the first single crochet, and that's your tail there. There's our first single crochet stitch. So we want to place our marker into that stitch. So we've got 1 single crochet. Now remember to work over this tail with each stitch. Two single crochet, three, four, five, six, seven, 8. And that's round 1 completed. And remember, we're not joining into this stitch because we're working in continuous rounds. We'll just be working our next stitch for the next round into that one, and around and around. Okay, so for round 2 we're going to be doing 2 single crochet stitches into each of those 8 stitches. So now we take our marker out, and you can just leave the tail alone now, we'll fix that up later. So into this first stitch where we've just taken the marker out, we're going to do our first single crochet stitch into that stitch, pop our marker back in, and then into that same stitch where we just put that single crochet, we want to do a second single crochet stitch. Moving on to the next stitch, we'll do 2 single crochet into this stitch. So there's the first one and the second one. And we'll do the same for all of these stitches around. 2 single crochet stitches into each stitch around. 1, 2. Next stitch, 1, 2, 2. Next stitch, 1, 2. Next stitch, 1, 2. Into the next stitch, 1, 2. Into the next stitch, 1, 2. And that's the end of round 2, and you'll have 16 stitches. And you'll know that you're at the end of the round because you always finish on the stitch just before the marker. And whenever you're placing 2 or more stitches into one stitch, like we've done here, that means that you're increasing. And that's how it's going to get larger and larger. So for round 3, we'll take our marker out and we'll be doing 1 single crochet into the next stitch. So this is our first stitch on this round. So always place the marker into that first stitch that you do. And then we're going to be doing 2 single crochet stitches into the next stitch. So 1, 2. So that'll be the whole sequence of round 3. 1 single crochet into the next stitch, 2 single crochet into the next stitch, and the same right around. So 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and 2 single crochet into this next stitch. So repeat that sequence right around until you get to this stitch just before the marker. And at the end of round 3, you'll have 24 stitches. So I'm at the end of round 3 and I've just done my last 2 stitches into the last stitch there, just before the marker. And now we're up to round 4. So we'll take our marker out. And for round 4 we're going to do 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. So we'll do our first one here, put the marker back in, so there's 1 single crochet, and then into the next stitch 1 single crochet, and then into the next stitch we're going to do 2 single crochet stitches. 1, 2. So this is going to be the whole sequence for this round. So 1 single crochet into the next stitch, 1 single crochet into the next stitch, 2 single crochet stitches into the next stitch. So repeat that sequence right around until you get to this stitch just before the marker. and I'll see you at the end. So I'm at the end of round 4 and I have 32 stitches, and I've done my last 2 stitches into the last stitch just before the stitch marker. So for round 5, take our marker out, and we're going to be doing 1 single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. So we'll place our first one here, and then we'll put our marker back in. So there's 1 single crochet, and into the next stitch 1 single crochet, into the next stitch 1 single crochet, and into the next stitch we do 2 single crochet stitches. 1, 2, and then we do that sequence again. So it's 1 single crochet into the next 3 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, and into the next stitch 2 single crochet stitches. 1, 2. So repeat that sequence right around until you get to the stitch just before the stitch marker, and at the end of this round you should have 40 stitches. So I'm at the end of round 5 and I've done my last 2 stitches into the stitch just before the marker. So for round 6 we'll take the marker out, and we'll be doing 1 single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. So we'll do our first one here. So single crochet and put our marker back into that stitch that we just did. So there's 1, 2 into the next stitch, 3 to the next stitch, there's our 4th one, and into the next stitch we'll be doing 2 single crochet stitches. 1, 2 into that same stitch, and that'll be our sequence right around. So 1 single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and into the next stitch 2 single crochet stitches. 1, 2. So repeat that sequence right around, and at the end of this round you should have 48 stitches. So I'm at the end of round 6. I've done my last 2 single crochet stitches into the last stitch just before the marker, and for round 7 we'll take the marker out and we're going to do 1 single crochet into each of the next 5 stitches. So we'll do our first one here, and then placing the marker back into that stitch there. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then into the next stitch would be 2 single crochet stitches. There's the first one and the second one, and that's our sequence for this round. So it's 1 single crochet into each of the next 5 stitches along, and then 2 single crochet into the next stitch. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 2 single crochet stitches into the next stitch. There's the first one, and there's the second one. So repeat that sequence right around, and at the end of this round you should have 56 stitches. I'm at the end of round 7, and I've done my last 2 single crochet into the stitch just before the marker. And for round 8 we'll take out the marker. We'll be doing 1 single crochet into each of the next 6 stitches. So we'll do our first single crochet stitch into where we've taken our marker out, and then we'll place our marker back into that stitch we've just made. So there's our first single crochet. It's our second. Third. Fourth. Fifth. And sixth. And into the next stitch here we do 2 single crochet stitches. So there's our first one and our second one, and that's our sequence for this round. So 1 single crochet into each of the next 6 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 2 single crochet stitches into the next stitch. So there's our first one and our second one into that same stitch. So repeat that sequence right around for this round, and at the end you should have 64 stitches. So now we're at the end of round 8, and we've made our last 2 single crochet stitches into this stitch just before the stitch marker. And from here on in for the sides we'll just be working with these 64 stitches that we have. So no more increasing. So for round 9 we'll take the marker out, make a single crochet into that stitch there, place your marker back in, and this round is quite easy. It's just 1 single crochet stitch into each stitch around. So 1 single crochet into each stitch around until you get to the end of the marker here. So continue on making one single crochet stitch into each stitch around, and I'll see you at the end here. So I'm at the end of round 9 and we've still got our 64 stitches, and I've made my last single crochet stitch into that stitch there just before the marker, and we've completed the crown of the hat or the chemo cap now. So that's the crown, the top, and we'll be working on the sides now. But before we work on the sides, we just want to tighten up the center here, and to do that you just give it a slight pull to tighten that center up, and then with your yarn needle you're going to tighten it even more by weaving your needle around these stitches in the center here. And that tightens it up. And you can keep going around and around until you run out of your yarn tail. And then to secure it even more, if you can see there where I've got my tail there, just skip one loop and go back in the opposite direction and weave back through this way. And just make sure that that tail doesn't come undone or come out at a later stage. And just weave back around in the opposite direction. And then you can just trim that off, and that's your center done. And then we can move on to the sides. And the sides are very easy. So for rounds 10 to 27, we'll be doing one single crochet into each stitch around. So this is round 10. So just put a single crochet there into that stitch where we took the marker out, and place your marker back in, and always remember to put your marker back in to the first stitch you make on each of these rounds, just so you don't get lost. So for round 10 and all following rows up to 27, you'll just be doing this, one single crochet into each stitch around, and this creates the sides. And because we're only working with 64 stitches, it's going to create an even sides, and it comes down this way. So you'll be working down, around, and it comes down. So you just continue on making one single crochet stitch into each stitch around. And as I said, you'll be doing that for this round, which is round 10, and all following rounds up to round 27. Okay, so once you get up to the end of round 27, this is what your work is going to look like. And I've just done my last stitch there just before the stitch marker. And if I turn it over like this, you can get a better look at what it looks like here. So now we'll be working on the last round, which is round 28, and this is the edging and the small front brim. So take your marker out there, and we're going to be doing one slip stitch into each of the next 23 stitches. So we'll place our first slip stitch into the stitch where we took our marker out. And you can just place your marker back in there. So we're going to do 23 slip stitches along. So we've got our first one there. There's 2. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So there's our 23 slip stitches, which creates a nice edge at the bottom of the cap. Okay, so now we're going to do one single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. So into the next stitch, 1 single crochet, and then into the next stitch along, 1 single crochet. And there we have our 2 single crochets. Then we're going to be doing 1 double crochet into each of the next 14 stitches. So there's 1 double crochet. Two double crochet, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 double crochet stitches, and it's created our small brim at the front. And now we'll do 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. So 1 single crochet stitch there, and into the next stitch a single crochet as well. And now we'll do 1 slip stitch into each of the next 23 stitches. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So continue right around doing your slip stitches, 1 slip stitch into each stitch around, and you'll be finishing in with the last slip stitch into this stitch here just before the stitch marker, and I'll see you at the end here. So I'm at the end of round 28 and I've made my last slip stitch in the stitch just before the stitch marker, and you can take the stitch marker out now because we won't need that anymore, and we're going to finish off. So just leave enough tail there so you can weave it into the work with a yarn needle. Cut your yarn and finish off. Now with that yarn tail, we'll just weave that through, thread it through your yarn needle. And to get a neat edge here, where you can see where you've made your knot there, just slip the needle down through the middle of the slip stitch, the first slip stitch that you made, which is just the next one along from the knot here. So slip it down the middle there. And that draws that knot down. It gives it a neater edge. And to weave the end in through the back, you can just weave it down until you get down to this row here of stitches, and then just weave it through the back of the stitches along that round. And you can just keep going for as long as you like, or until you run out of your yarn tail. And then just turn and skip that last loop there of that stitch and run the needle back through the stitches again. This is just one way of securing it so that it doesn't pop out. And then you can trim that. And that's the hat done, the cap done. And you can see the small brim there. This is the top, and this is the back. And of course we have no seam, or we can't see where any joins are because we've done it in a spiral motion, so we don't have a big line down the back of it like you do when you join rounds. This is just a neater way of doing it. So now I'll be showing you how to do the wings. And I've got 2 wings here, and that's what they look like. And so let's get started on how to make them. You'll be needing 2 of these. So to make a front wing, you'll be using the same yarn and the same hook. And we'll make our slip knot. We'll chain 19. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. For round 1, we'll do 1 single crochet into the second chain from the hook. There's the first one, there's the second one. So 1 single crochet into the second chain from the hook. Now we're going to do 1 single crochet into each of the next 16 chain stitches. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And we're going to do 3 single crochet stitches into the last chain stitch. Now with the first single crochet stitch, we're going to put the tail over the hook like that. You can see the tail is over the hook, and make the first single crochet over that tail, and then just leave that flapping behind there. And then we'll do 2 more single crochet stitches into the same chain stitch. So 1, 2, and as you can see, the work has spun around to the other side now. We'll be working on this opposite side into the unused loops, or also known as free loops. We'll also be working over this tail. And we'll be doing 1 single crochet into each of the next 16 unused loops. So I'm just trying to get a bit closer here so you can see where I'm going to start into that first unused loops there. And putting the tail over the hook. And there's our first single crochet. And you'll notice that there's a hole there, and that's fine. That's what you do want to see. So into the second unused loops with the tail over your hook. There's 2 single crochet, so 1, 2, into the third one here, tail over the hook. There's the third one, third single crochet, and we'll keep going. 4, 5, 6, making sure you get that tail in. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and if you're running out of tail you can just leave that behind and we'll cut that off later. Thirteen, 14, 15, 16. Now we're up to our last unused loops here, and we're going to do 2 single crochet into the last unused loop. One, two, and you can see our first single crochet we made there, and we're going to join in there with a slip stitch. And then you can cut your yarn, leaving enough tail to weave in to the wing. Finish off. Now remember that other little tail here, we can trim that off. And just using a yarn needle, weave this in just down through the back there. Now you'll need to make a second wing, just how I showed you, and I'll show you how to attach these to the front of the cap. Okay, so I've attached one wing with the button on one side of the cap, just so you can see what it looks like and where I'm placing it. And I'm actually placing it, if you can see that, you count the 2 single crochet stitches and then 4 of the double crochet stitches, and on that 4th double crochet stitch from the side, that's where I'm placing the end of the wing, and then popping the button there. And then if you flip it over, this is how I'm joining it on the inside there, which is sort of like a bit of padding at the front of the inside of the head. So that's what it looks like, and I'll give you a demonstration here. So counting, just find, so there's our first 2 single crochet stitches we made there, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4 double crochet stitches, and you're wanting to place the wing right there. And then I get my yarn and needle and come up through the middle there, and I leave enough of a tail because I'm going to tie through the back here with the button. So grab your button and just pop that through. And then going back down through the same hole that we just came up through, just go straight back down and that pulls the button in place. And then I like to just tie a knot here, just one, because you don't want a big bobble at the front of the head irritating, and this tail here will be weaved in later with the yarn needle. So once you've got that in place there, you can bring the bring the needle back up on the side of the button there, and then you're just going to skip each single crochet stitch and go down the side of it, and this way you won't really be able to notice the stitching. See there, it sort of just disappears into your work, and then just come up through the other side there and back down there, and you're just securing this wing so it doesn't fly off. Now with this end here, you're going to, it's sort of in a V shape really, so the front of the wing is here and the back of the wing goes up that way. See? So we keep on sewing down this way. I'll just see where I'm at here. And so remember just popping up on the sides of the single crochet stitches and then back down the other side. And just keep going along. And now when you get down here, you will actually start to sew into the back of the wing. From this point on, you flip this over. You've got your wing on the inside now, and how I attach it is I go from side to side like this. Now you're wanting to catch the inside of the stitches, and you can check by having a look on the other side. You don't want your yarn coming out through this side, so you're just catching with the needle the inside of the stitches to secure the wing on the inside of the hat. And you just keep going along this way, just catching the back of these stitches, and you just keep going up and up and up, and then finish off up here, and then you'll have your finished product. And that is how you make the Crochet for Cancer Ladies Chemo Cap Wings Like Eagles. And if you'd like to look at the written pattern or follow the written pattern, it is through the link below. And if you'd like to donate these chemo caps once you've made them, you can find the link to Crochet for Cancer in the description box below also. So thank you very much for following this video and crocheting along with me, and I hope that you'll join me on the next one.